Hey guys, Justin here. A lot of people ask me, how do I raise my I rating? And I always tell them, well, I'll tell you how to raise your I rating pretty easily, but it's not going to make you a better driver. And that usually confuses them, because yes, I rating is an objective mathematical calculation of your skill level in a way, but the way that it works really rewards contradictory practices to actually increasing your skill level and becoming a better driver in the long term. So let's talk about it. The first thing I want to talk about is really what story is our I rating trying to tell? Are we trying to make our I rating into our Instagram wall, or are we trying to make it into our private Twitter? What I mean by that is, are we just selecting races that we think will do well in so that we get good I rating gains from it, or at least have a better chance of gaining? Or are we just racing whatever the heck, not really caring about what's going on, just telling the world, hey, I'm racing this race because I feel like it, and if I lose I rating, I lose I rating? The first case would be your Instagram wall, and the second case would be your private Twitter. It's so easy in the world of competitive racing, and even video games for that matter, to see an ELO, a rating attached to our name, and really just put our self-worth into that and say, I want this number to be higher, so I'm going to do this because I want this number to be higher. But in the long term, thinking in the Instagram wall type of mind space will actually hold back your growth as a racer, because you're really only hard focusing on your strengths without really trying to raise the power of your weaknesses, or at least your weak tracks. Your graph may take a sharp downward turn because of how you performed in a race or a crash, but the skill that you get out of that race is never going to go negative. You're always going to get something out of the race, or even if you don't get anything, you don't go negative. And as you learn more and your skill level continues to grow with the more races that you run, your I rating will eventually gravitate along with that. So let's talk about ways that you can mathematically game the I rating system, and why they're either a good idea or a not so good idea. The thing about iRacing licenses is that they cover a broad range of series. So for instance, in Oval, the people that are running super short tracks and late models are under the same license as people running Daytona and Cup cars. So with that in mind, let's talk about Variance. Variance is a killer of I rating, because that means that if you show up to a race as the fastest car and the best driver, then you might not even do well, and you would have no better I rating gain or loss than a person who showed up slow. So the I rating system disproportionately rewards series with low variance. So what makes a series low variance over high variance? Well, my idea of it is that any series that has cautions will automatically increase the variance by a lot because of pit strategy that can occur, restarts that can create potential crashes, and so on. Along with that, races that have longer race length also have lower variance, because even with a lot of issues, a good car can make it back up to the front with time. A quick side note, this is why you see a lot of road drivers have higher I ratings than they're used to seeing in Oval. You'll see a lot of guys in the 9Ks, the high 8Ks, even into the 10Ks in the same race, whereas in Oval you see a lot of pros in the Coke series, even in the high 5Ks, the low 6Ks, something like that. And it's because road at its core has a lot lower level of variance than Oval, with no cautions to bunch cars up and cause other wrecks, and less contact in general that results in finishes outside of speed that was brought to the track. So what Oval series has the lowest level of variance? Well, from my personal experience, I would argue that ARCA has a very low level of variance if you're able to qualify up front. Outside of short tracks, lap cars are never an issue for the leaders in my experience, so you can really just race your race and not have to worry about cautions, and you really have a low level of variance that results in very consistent I rating. And it's why my Discord server is named the ARCA Farm, because we farm I rating here. Another notorious one is the super late model series, which a lot of the names that you've heard of, like Ty Majeski, have used to get up to over 10K. Because if you bring the fastest car to those races, even though there are cautions in them, you're not going to beat them, and you never have to pit for tires, so you're not even going to have a chance to touch them on restarts. So should you just avoid series that have high variance to them to raise your I rating? That's not what I'm trying to say. By missing out on series like C Fixed, B Fixed, A Fixed, and some of the other short track series, you are missing out on a lot of skill that has to be done with cautions, restarts, side-by-side racing, pit stop strategy, pit stop execution. There are a lot of things that you need to get good at that can only be done in these high variance series in order to become a fully good oval driver. I'm just trying to say that iRating is not as absolute and definite as it seems to a newer player. The next thing that iRating really rewards is grinding. There are some pretty funny stories of somebody getting really good at a specific car and track combo and literally gaining 2,000 to 3,000 iRating in 1 week by running that race 70 times. Now, for the vast majority of us, that's not realistic. But I always joke with people when they ask me how to raise their iRating and say, you know your favorite car and track combo? Next time that comes around, take a couple sick days. Because if there's a car and track combo where you are getting top 5s in pretty much every race that you're doing and not really ever having any hiccups, it's your choice whether you want to gain 100 iRating from that week or 1,000 iRating from that week. Now, on the flip side to that, do I think you should do it? Sure, why not? But don't be surprised if that starts correcting in the other direction the next time you start racing again. The worst habit to get into is to be at your highest iRating and then refuse to enter races because you don't want to lose iRating. Another bad habit I've been seeing a lot lately too is people putting way too much practice before they race. You can look at my practicing video that I made a few months ago, but I really believe that you shouldn't need more than about an hour, maybe 2 at max, before you're ready to jump into a brand new track. If you find yourself saying, well, I understand the track, but I need to practice more so I don't lose iRating when I do my race here, then it's probably time to jump into it because you're going to learn much more from being in that race than you could ever learn being on your own. Whether it's from following people that are faster than you, or just learning how to be side by side with other cars, or how a race goes throughout a run. And the last thing that iRating disproportionately rewards is specialization. If you only stick to one type of series or car, then you are more likely to be at a competitive advantage to those around you who may not be doing the same thing. Now, this isn't necessarily a problem because iRacing's whatever you want to make out of it. If you're like me and find a certain car more fun than any other car on the surface, then I can't tell you not to run that. But in terms of being a high-level competitive oval driver, you really got to do the opposite. You got to broaden yourself and be able to drive at least all the types of NASCARs if that's what you're into, or different types of short track cars if that's what you're into, or everything. Because at the end of the day, iRacing should really be about getting online and saying, ooh, this looks fun, I'll race it. And not something like, ARCA is at this place this week, I guess I'll take the week off. Okay, I lied. There's one thing you can do where you can follow all of my tips of becoming a better oval driver while still maintaining your high iRating. And all you need is money. And this is where we get into the world of alt accounts. Just in case you thought iRacing was too cheap buying every track for 15 bucks and every car for 10 bucks, how about we do it again? But this time, we don't have to care about the number next to our name. Sounds like a great deal, right? Well, I have fallen into this trap like many other high iRating drivers, and it's because, from the objective perspective, why would I race a Daytona race when I would knock out 4 hours worth of grinding that I did at an ARCA track the week before? But counterpoint, it's a number, just race. And that's why I have a lot of respect for the people that can just go out and race and not care about that stuff, because at the end of the day, let's be real, no matter what we say, it's almost impossible not to care about that number, because like I said at the beginning of this video, we tie it to our self-worth whether we want to or not, and we also judge others for it whether we want to or not. If you're over about a 2.5 to 3K, you're going to be making pretty much every top split, and above all that, it doesn't really matter except for vanity purposes. Unless you want to do some road to pro split stuff, which I could go into all on its own. So in conclusion, if you want to make your iRating your Instagram wall, then go ahead. I've kind of given you the blueprint within this video, but just know that it will probably stunt your actual growth as a driver along the way. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I will see you all on the track.